Hello Health Lab, it is Chris. You know this. I'm looking a bit blurry at the moment though. Now today I am going to go through a little bit more of You Can Fix Your Brain. This is a fantastic book. Then I have some notes here and I'm going to go through why the blood-brain barrier is important. The blood-brain barrier is actually there. It stops blood getting into your brain and giving you a permanent stroke all the time. But there's more to it. But first of all, what I would like to say is hello, Wendy Hutton. There we go. First one in is, I will be doing these at 1:30 every Tuesday until I've finished this book or until I've done 100 days of 100%, whichever one is the quickest. And hey, Mr. Ollie Baker as well. So, what did I want to speak about? Very, very quickly, on Friday, I recorded a video on something called sleep apnea, and it was about sleep apnea in children. And on Monday morning, I actually put it up onto YouTube. So it's been there since Monday. And if you're on my YouTube channel and you subscribe, you would have got a link to that. But so if you are not yet subscribing to my YouTube channel, I'll put a link to that particular video because it's really important, because 5% of children now have sleep apnea, which you might think, well, what's this? It's basically where the throat is swelling up and it stops breathing. And of course, this can be really serious, and it's linked with other malformations, and it can be linked with behavioural and developmental problems in the brain. And as you get older, it's related to more problems. But why I'm really going to stress it is that on Monday later on that day, there was a news article released over the entire of the country, and the fact that 9 out of 10 childhood admissions to hospital are related to sleep apnea. Hello, Mayuri Patel. So this is a major, major problem. 5% of children get it. 9 out of 10 hospital admissions for children are to do with sleep apnea. So I'm going to put a link to the video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get actually updates on the latest videos that I release, because they are there designed not just to help you, but to help the whole of the country. In fact, everyone, everywhere. And I'll put a link to the video. Please share it, because sleep apnea in children can be completely prevented if mothers breastfeed for 6 months. And there are other things that can be done as well to actually help it once it's already happening, such as chiropractic care to relieve inflammation and problems in the neck and the throat. So please share the sleep apnea video with everyone you know who's a young parent or who have just got married and are thinking of becoming parents. Please share it with people who are grandparents or just about to become grandparents so they can pass this knowledge on. It's very important. So on with today's show. You Can Fix Your Brain. This is part 2. I'm moving into chapter 2. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole chapter. I'm going to go through quite a bit of it now, and then on Friday at 4 o'clock, that's my plan, Friday at 4 o'clock, I'll go through the rest of the chapter. So there's a few things to look out for if you're really wanting to look out after your brain. So point number 1, loss of sense of smell. Now, your sense of smell in medical terms is known as olfaction, O-L-F, olfaction. And if you're over 70 and you lose your sense of smell, you have a 48% increased chance of dying within the next 5 years, because the part of your brain that's linked to smell is basically the most primitive central part of your entire processing apparatus. So if your sense of smell goes, it's actually a pretty major sign, even though doctors just go, our sense of smell, can't figure it out. But it is very much linked to this part of your brain that's linked to Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and dementia, but a whole load of other things as well. So if your sense of smell is going when you're younger, it's really good to get it checked out, because there can be lots of different reasons why it goes. Now, here's the good news. If you're over 70 and your sense of smell goes, even though there's this increased risk, it actually decreases if you generally are looking after yourself, exercising, eating healthily, and doing things like detoxifying, because this is absolutely critical for the brain. And hello, gun sales. I hope I said that right. Sales. So Yeah, sense of smell. If you have a loss of sense of smell, or if you're not sure, one of the things we do in the clinic, that's the wrong one. There are various essential oils, and we basically do a smell test. See how far away. This one's a bit blocked at the moment. See how far away you can smell and see if it's getting worse, because an early warning sign of brain deterioration. But there's lots you can do to reverse it and bring it back. Next thing I want to talk about, the cerebellum. Cerebellum is central to so much of what I do in the clinic. The cerebellum, it's only about 10% of your actual brain's volume, but 50% of your brain's neurons are in the cerebellum. And what it does is it processes and integrates and decodes pretty much all of the sensory information. And then it translates it into actions of different kinds. It affects your immune system, it affects your thoughts, your behaviors, learning, speech, but balance is the biggest one that it's linked to and the most studied. And it used to be the only one that they thought it was linked to, balance and coordination. So a simple test to see if your cerebellum is working is, you can't see this at the moment, I'm standing on one leg. Oh, maybe if I use, no, you can't see me in the mirror either. Okay, basically I'm standing on one leg. So stand on one leg, raise your knee up nice and high. You should be able to stand for 10 seconds on one leg. Then you swap, you stand for 10 seconds on the other leg. Then, this is where it all goes wrong, then you should be able to close your eyes and you should be able to stand for at least 10 seconds with your eyes closed. Now, if you do actually fall over after less than 10 seconds, also while trying to talk, and you can't actually maintain your balance and hop on the spot. Oh, I'm having lots of fun here. Anyway, so, and especially if you can't then regain your balance, but usually I should be able to actually be still for about 30 seconds. So it tells me that I've actually got a problem in my lower back or somewhere else at the moment, so I need to go and see my chiropractor to get that sorted. But when you close your eyes and both sides balance go, it usually indicates a problem with the cerebellum. It could just be one side, which again, it can indicate cerebellar problems, but it certainly indicates sensory input into the brain is going wrong somewhere, which then can then lead to cerebellar problems. Sorry, we're a bit crooked there, I think. Doesn't matter. So check your cerebellum. Everyone can do that. Don't do it in front of a mirror with your eyes closed unless you're a seasoned professional like myself. Next up, yes, a lot of people have lots of numbness and tingling, very easy, not cold hands for me, but actually numbness and tingling. If you're getting lots of paresthesias, but also a leg keeps on giving way a lot, this can be one of the early signs of something like multiple sclerosis. But if you get in there really quickly and you actually get some tests to see if the covering of your nerves, which is called myelin, which is acts like the insulation, get some tests really early on to antibodies against it, you can then do something about it. And this is one of the things this book is really good about, is actually early detection things, the sorts of tests you really want to be going and having if you're having problems, so you can actually reverse serious conditions long before they actually become a diagnosed serious problem. So let's move on to the blood-brain barrier. Now, your body, what's in your blood rather, depends on what you're actually absorbing through your gut lining. And then if the wrong kind of things are getting into your body, you can start creating, as I said in the first part, you can start creating antibodies to these proteins. And a lot of the time, these antibodies to these proteins that are coming into the body, they can form antibodies, or this protein that's foreign invader of your body can look like a part of your body, like your brain. And so if these antibodies then get into your brain, they start attacking your brain, as well as it could be your thyroid or your liver or your kidneys or your pancreas or your skin or muscles or your heart. But also, you are what you absorb through your skin. And a lot of things actually get through the skin that shouldn't get into our body. So there's our skin, there's also what we're inhaling through our lungs. Now, according to the World Health Organization, 92% of the world's population, so yes, that includes us here in the UK, even if we're not in London, 92% of the world's population are breathing polluted air with known toxicants in them. And these toxins get into our lungs. They can actually start causing tears in the lungs barrier, also as we're eating and smelling them, but also these things can get absorbed through our eyes as well. So these foreign chemicals can get into our body in various different ways. Our body starts forming antibodies against them. And we're going to go through a list of some things that you want to really check as well in a moment, certain foods to check in a moment. But also there are things that can actually start ripping holes through these barriers and allowing things in that really have no business about being in there. And this is when problems really start happening. And just like you can get holes through your skin, you can get holes in your lungs, you can get what's called a leaky gut, you can also get a leaky blood-brain barrier, which allows things in that really shouldn't get in there. Now, as well as different foods and different antibodies or just chemicals that can actually start ripping holes in the brain, there's also a concussion. When you get a concussion, a blow to the head, it actually rips your blood-brain barrier. Asking where are toxins from? Yeah, the environment. They're being released in all kinds of ways. One of my posts that I did here just earlier this morning, PCBs, they were banned 15 years ago. They reckon they're going to wipe out half the killer whale population of the planet. But PCBs are also present in us. They're disrupting our hormones. There are 100,000 chemicals in the environment, Wendy. 100,000 chemicals that are man-made that our bodies don't know how to deal with. Some of them are going to be fine. Some of them may even combine to actually be good for us. But what we also know is a non-toxic level of mercury mixed with a non-toxic level of aluminium mixed with a non-toxic level of glyphosate, which is a herbicide, actually becomes toxic at 100 times less than their safe amounts. And that's just 3 of the 100,000 chemicals. So who knows what else all these things are causing. So where was I? Blood-brain barrier, concussion. Yeah, so concussion can cause things to leak in the brain, but also simple things like kids going into head of football. In American football, there's a lot more head trauma. But even simple little knocks and blows. But also, if you're doing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of jogging, that's really bad for the brain as well, because it's lots and lots of micro trauma. So if you're running, you need to be running on something soft. You need to also do other forms of exercise, because other forms of moderate exercise actually tighten the blood-brain barrier. So too much running, bad for the brain and causes autoimmunity. So we're talking about people going and running lots and lots of 10Ks every week or more, doing lots of marathons and lots of hyper endurance events. Bad for the brain, which is why so many ultra marathon runners suddenly can break down and get Crohn's disease or some other autoimmune condition. So blood-brain barrier, there we go, concussions and certain foods. One chemical as well, BPA, which we find in plastics. BPA, and we find it in the ocean now. BPA can actually form an antibody to it that attacks part of your brain that's to do with vision, as well as other parts of your brain. But there are some foods that are very similar and can create antibodies to the same parts as BPA, and that's corn, tomatoes, spinach, soy, and tobacco. And so these are the things that you may have been eating for years and years and years. You don't think you've got a health problem with them, but suddenly you can create antibodies to them, and then they can be the root of your problem. And tomatoes can cause all kinds of other problems as well in some people. So if your brain is getting foggier, if your vision is getting really dim, it might be worth, and you've got some other health problems going on, it might be worth getting antibodies checked to BPA, corn, tomato, spinach, soy, and tobacco. And there is actually a test, I'm finding out if we can get it in the UK, called the neural Zoomer test. So stay tuned for the neural Zoomer test, because if we get it here, I'll actually post a link so you guys can really check out your brains if you're worried about it. So thank you very much for listening. So remember, do the balance test, and please share the video on childhood sleep apnea to people you know who've got young children, to people who you know are going to have more children, and to grandparents or parents who are about to become grandparents, because this information could end up saving lives. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you all, well, tomorrow I will be broadcasting to everyone at 1:30, and then I'll be back here at 4 o'clock just for the health lab. Be well.